Hey guys, gwyned here. Today I am bringing you the finals of Phase 2 of the Standard Pauper Double League. Excited to be showing you this today. The finals is between afreeAk, and he is playing Is It Prowess, and joekewwl, who is playing a white weenie with just a splash of red, which he's calling a pink deck. So playing a little bit here, trying to figure out the best settings for this as we get going here. So excuse me as I kind of fiddle with things as we get going. See what both players are going to do here in their opener. I'm going to go ahead and put this back up here just so I can kind of keep track of what's going on. So both players obviously make their first land drop, and we are off to the races. Let's see, coming back up on afree's turn, let's see what he wants to do here. He is going to go ahead and see if he's got a 2-drop. He does. Goes ahead and has a Jeskai Sage. Not quite as good as playing a Majoring Bully, turn 2 for this particular deck, but definitely a very good card. Just the fact that you can always use the trade-off with anything your opponent can do is just really good. So that's one of the definite staples of this particular deck, just because it pumps up with prowess, and then when it dies, you get to trade in for a card. So Joe immediately casts Fiery Impulse to get it off the board. Of course, again, it is almost a 2-for-1 since he immediately draws the card back. And then on his turn, Joe has an afreeAk Bondkin. This particular card is really good in his particular white weenie build because just about everything has the ability to get +1/+1 counters. And so that the Bondkin ends up being able to pump or give first strike to just about everything, which can be very, very good in this particular matchup. So afree's got a second Jeskai Sage. See if he has maybe a Fiery Impulse or something to take out the Bondkin as well. And it seems like he's thinking about something here. Yeah, he is going to go ahead and just cast Fiery Impulse and get the Bondkin off the board. Makes sense. And then we're back on Joe's turn. See if he has his third land drop here. Doesn't look like he does. Definitely not a good turn for him, although this particular deck doesn't need a lot of lands. Certainly most of the time wants to find at least its third land drop so that it's able... Oh, he does have it. Okay, great. So he is going to go ahead and cast the Plains and is going to get Sandcrafter Mage into play. Unlike other support creatures, Bolster does allow you to put the tokens wherever you want, the +1/+1 tokens, so he is able to just pump up the Sandcrafter Mage itself to a 3/3, puts it at a range of a couple different effects, namely Twin Bolt and a couple others as well, so that's definitely good to have the 3/3, and it makes it so the Jeskai Sage is a little easier to block. Afree is going to go ahead and swing in here. See if Joe decides to block here. He would have to pump it up twice in order to trade, but probably not something that Joe's going to want to do. Okay, and he is going to go ahead. Afree is going to go ahead and play Titan Strength. Definitely a hallmark of the Is It Prowess deck, simply for the ability to pump his creatures up so high. So just with one card, he immediately makes that into a 5/5, or I'm sorry, a 5/3. So it's probably good that Joe didn't block. Although had he blocked, they would have traded. And would have been a 2-for-2 essentially, so that would have been fine. Or I'm sorry, it would have been a 1-for-2. So actually, Afree probably wouldn't have cast it at that point. And he has a Clutch of Currents to go ahead and get the Sandcrafter Mage off the board, just bouncing it back to his hand, slowing him down, and kind of setting him back, trying to stay ahead of him. It's one of the things that this white weenie deck really wants to do if it's able to get off to a fast start and put a lot of pressure on your opponent and remove all his creatures, then there's very little that the Is It deck can do. Joe's just forced to go ahead and replay the Sandcrafter Mage, again, bumping it up to a 3/3. Afree's and has a Standstone Bridge as well, which definitely is not at its best here since he just has to immediately pass the turn back. But definitely in the right situation. Again, just another way to pump up his creatures, and it can do be surprisingly effective in this matchup, and particularly giving your creatures vigilance so that you're able to both attack and block has proven to be really good in a lot of different matchups. So really like the way this white weenie deck is able to apply a lot of pressure, but even sometimes hold blockers back with all the different ways it has to give its creatures vigilance. So Free's going to dig here for some more spells using Anticipate. He's down to a single card in hand. So definitely trying to find something to help him deal with the Sandcrafter Mage, or simply to be able to set up a win using the combination of Titan Strength and Temur Battle Rage, which is typically how this deck wins now. It's kind of become the de facto default way of finishing off an opponent, simply because between Prowess and Titan Strength and Temur Battle Rage, it's not out of the question to be able to deal 10, 15 damage in a single turn. And then, of course, the hallmark of this deck is Treasure Cruise. Not only pumps up the Sage, but also allows him to refill his hand, so he's gone from having one card in hand to 4, and is in much better shape now, is able to combo off and do a lot of different things. Can't imagine that Joe would want to block here. But he is going to go ahead and block, kind of daring his opponent to have something, which his opponent does not. So he does prevent 3 damage, which is helpful for him. But of course, it allows Afree to draw yet another card. So Joe probably wished he would have blocked the first time there, but it's always hard trying to decide whether to block against the Izzet Prowess deck, simply because they just have the ability to pump up their creatures so high. Another interesting thing that's kind of happened, most of the time, this Sand Step Outcast, you'd always want to get the token, but in this particular matchup, just trying to boost up your creature's toughness and go ahead and get that +1/+1 counter on it has actually proven to be a little bit better. So now we see the elusive Spellfist come down. It looks like he's got a second Spellfist as well. And that's going to be a pretty potent threat, simply because Joe no longer has the ability to block those, at least most of the time. And they're the perfect target for the combo of the Battle Rage and the... my mind just blanked. I forgot what the other spell is called, but you know what I'm talking about. The ability to give it +3/+1. And yeah, so Joe is definitely in a world of hurt here. He's not going to be able to block those. Does have an Erishan Cleric, which is something that he has kind of brought back into the format. Getting a 1/3 for 2 mana that also gives you 3 life has actually proven just to be really important against this deck. Keeping your life total high gives you just a little bit more time to be able to fight through whatever pressure your opponent's putting on you and be able to survive to try to deal with it. Let's see what Afree's got here. Does have the Anticipate to go ahead and pump up with both of his elusive Spellfists. And again, just trying to put the combo together so that he can finish off his opponent. 18's a little high. He most of the time would not be able to kill his opponent with that, but it wouldn't take much more than that to be able to get in and finish off his opponent, even from such a high life total. Presumably here he's got at least one more spell he'll cast, pumping those up to 3 mana each and doing a whole bunch of damage here. It's worth noting too that Evolving Wilds is just really good in this deck, simply because it fuels Treasure Cruise, right? It just gives you one more land that goes into your graveyard and just allows the Izzet Prowess deck to continue to dig deeper and deeper into its deck, generate more and more card advantage. And essentially every turn that goes by, Joe is more and more under the gun, simply because his opponent's able to put so much pressure on him. So just from casting those 2 spells, and Joe does have a Gideon's Reproach, so he's going to go ahead and get rid of one of those Spellfists. Very good for him. That's another card that's just a great tool in White's arsenal. Again, if you can get rid of all of the Izzet Prowess cards, all of their creatures, there's really not a whole lot they can do. Their whole win condition revolves around being able to get in a creature, do a lot of damage, and do it quickly. So if you can simply keep all the creatures off the board, play enough removal, then you can keep them off their game plan. So Afree does have a second Treasure Cruise and is able to go ahead and draw a whole bunch more cards. He's got a fistful of cards still. Joe, on his turn, is going to play Tormenting Voice and actually discards a Sand Step Outcast in order to do it. Obviously, he can't block here, so there's no reason not to go ahead and send in with both of his creatures, dropping his opponent down to 14. And then it's going to go ahead and cast a Topin Freeblade there as well. I don't know if you saw that. The Topin Freeblade had the picture of it, of the Tormenting Voice. This is a bug I've noticed, at least on my end, a couple times now on Magic Online, that it's getting its artwork confused. Just one more great thing about our Magic Online client. Gotta love that. afreeAk has a Tormenting Voice all of his own. Go ahead and he is going to discard, let's see, I'm not actually sure which which card he discarded to go ahead and activate that. But it does go ahead. Again, it draws more cards, pumps up his elusive Spell Fist, also has a Fiery Impulse, which he's going to use to get rid of the Token Free Blade. Again, just pumping up the Spell Fist some more and allowing him to get in for a bunch of damage. His opponent is not able to block, and he has a Clutch Occurrence as well here to bounce the Sandstep Outcast, and you notice he's now got 4 power on it. If he's got the combo here, that'll be enough to win right here. Let's see if he's managed to assemble it. Yeah, okay, so he does have the Titan Strength. That pumps it all the way up to a 9-4, and so all he needs is the Tamir Battle Rage here, and he wins, and he will win the match. Looks like he doesn't have it though, and just drops his opponent down to 8, and follows that up with a Jeskai Sage. So kind of expected the win there. Joe very fortunate to escape without having to be the victim of the Tamir Battle Rage. See if he's able to do anything here. Just go ahead and play a Morph creature, which is almost certainly the Kieran. I forget the full name of it, but basically that it's when it gets unmorphed, it comes into the battlefield as a 3/2 flyer, which definitely is a nice little flyer, can do a whole bunch of damage, and has really been a card that I haven't seen anybody play until Joe started playing it in this White Weenie build, and it's been pretty good for him. It's definitely something, if you're playing White, that I think it's well worth considering. A little expensive, but the fact that you can play it as a 2/2 morph a little earlier and then unmorph it later has proven to be pretty good. So, of course, Afree has more spells. He's able to find and anticipate here, which again just fuels exactly what the Is It Prowess deck is trying to do. Let you cast a spell, let you draw another card, which will further allow you to cast another spell, and you just chain some spells in, pumps up all his prowess guys, and there's just it's a very difficult deck to beat simply because all its cards synergize so well together. So looks like Afree is really thinking long and hard about what he wants to keep here. Let's see what he's been able to assemble here now. Again, it wouldn't take much if he has Tamir Battle Rage in hand. Only needs to cast basically any pump spell plus the Tamir Battle Rage would be enough. Instead, he's got a Clutch Occurrence, which is going to allow him to awaken. Looks like his Mountain. He is going to bounce the Morph. Again, just letting his creatures get in, pumps both of his guys to a 3/3, and so Joe here needs a piece of removal just to be able to survive. Yes, it's called the Misttooth Kieran. I knew it was a Kieran. And so, swing in here for 9 points of damage, so Joe's got to have a removal spell here in order to survive. Guessing, having looked at this deck, that he does have at least one, but that's still going to put him way, way under the gun here. As far as next turn only having one blocker, his opponent basically will just need 2 spells, and that'll be the end of it. Oh, and Joe doesn't even have the removal spell, so that is how Game 1 ended. I'll be back in a minute for Game 2. Alright guys, I am back. Here we are in Game 2 of this match between afreeAk and joekewwl. Again, this is the finals of the Standard Pauper Double League Phase 2. On the bottom we have joekewwl playing White Weenie with a little splash of red, and Afree is playing the now infamous Is It Prowess deck. Afree is up 1 game, and as a reminder, because this is the end of a double elimination playoff, that joekewwl was the winner of the Winners League, or of the Winners Bracket, so he only has to win 1 game, but in order for Afree to take the trophy here, he actually has to win 2 matches back-to-back. So as soon as Joe wins a match, he is the champion, or as soon as Afree wins 2 matches, he would be declared the champion, or I should say the winner of the Phase 2 of the Standard Pauper Double League. And so we are obviously off here. See if Joe has a 2-drop here. Very important for this deck to have a 2-drop, although it plays so many, it would be an unusual circumstance for him not to have one. Oh, instead he's having to play a Tormenting Voice, having to discard a Sandstep Outcast, presumably digging for a 3rd land drop. So Joe's definitely had a little bit of mana trouble here, hasn't been able to make consistent land drops, and I think that's starting to hurt him a little bit. Free's got an elusive Spell Fist on his turn. Since Joe didn't have any creatures last time and didn't have any lands, it would make sense that he probably has a removal spell in hand. And the fact that he went ahead and passed again, I think, would be further proof of that. I would expect to see a either the Gideon's card or I'm having trouble with card names today, aren't I? But I would expect him to be able to remove this card pretty easily here. Celestial Flare, that's the one I'm thinking. Although obviously he can't cast Celestial Flare, so it's got to be the Gideon's Rebuke here. So let's see what Free wants to do. See, I knew I would come up with them. Alright, so Joe's also said earlier they're having a little bit of lag issues, so if the gameplay is a little slow, I think that might contribute as well. I've noticed even a little bit on my end, just a little bit of lag. So if Free isn't going to cast a spell here, interesting. Would expect him to want to cast a spell in order to pump that up. Maybe he's just waiting to see if Joe has a Gideon's Reproach, which he does. So I don't think a Free has any way to pump it up past the 4 mana there. Although I guess if he had the Titan Strength there, that would have made it a 2/4, which might have been enough in and of itself to do that. But he does not have anything other than that. So instead, he just drops a Majoring Bully and passes the turn back. Joe's in good shape now, getting his land drop, so that's definitely good for him. See if he's able to get 2 creatures on here. You might also have his White Weenie deck sideboards into a whole bunch of removal, so I would be surprised if he goes ahead and plays the creatures here and holds up a removal spell as well. Again, that's exactly the kind of situation that he wants to be in, be able to build his own board and be able to deal with his opponent's board as well. So obviously, again, not Celestial Flare, but could easily have another Gideon's Rebuke. The deck also has access to Kill Shot, obviously doesn't have mana up for that. I'm trying to think, also has the ability to burn out the Majoring Bully as well. So got lots of different options here that he could be playing. So Joe does have the Fiery Impulse to go ahead and get rid of the Majoring Bully. He does have enough. Well, I don't know if he actually has the spells in his hand. Looks like he doesn't. Okay, so here at Free, he's going to go ahead and play Titan Strength, which pumps up the Majoring Bully to a 6/4 and keeps the Fiery Impulse from being able to kill it, but it does deal 3 damage to it. Oh, but it's going to get pumped up for the Prowess to a 7/5 here. So obviously it's outside of removal range, unless Joe has another trick. This deck does play the white 1 mana pump spell that enables the creatures that prevents all damage dealt to creatures. So if he's got that in play, he could potentially still take out the Majoring Bully here. Either way, I would expect him to block just to prevent 7 damage. I mean, that's a no-brainer here. So he will go ahead and block. Let's see if he's got a spell as well, or if he's just going to allow it to finish it off. Okay, so he does have the spell, the Enshrouding Mist. Pumps it up, prevents all damage, and gives it enough power to go ahead and get rid of the Majoring Bully. So that particular exchange was very good for Joe. Leaves him in really good shape. He's got the only creature on the board and has been able to force his opponent to play several cards in order to stay alive. So I would presume here he's got some more creatures. Okay, he's going to go ahead and dump out the Sandstep Outcast. Again, I expect that he is going to put the counter on it. That seems to be the way he prefers to play this. And again, if he draws any of the cards that have synergy with the tokens, that makes sense. He gets another token on it, puts that at a range of a lot of different spells. So Fiery Impulse, and so that just makes sense. It looks like a Free is playing the Skyline Cascade, which has been one of my favorite cards to come out in Battle for Zendikar. It's just the ability to keep a creature tapped down that you get with a land is actually pretty decent. So if Free continues to dig, uses his Anticipate, but you notice here the fact that he doesn't get any extra damage out of it is, again, just really good for Joe, because he's forcing his opponent to not really get to use all of his synergistic effects. So if Free does find a Fiery Impulse to get rid of the Sandstep Outcast, but otherwise has to pass the turn back. The Arishan Cleric is forced to be tapped down because of the Whispering Crag. So, the Skyline Cascade, I mean. And so Free has an Elusive Spellfist. He's able to find a creature. Joe's got 2 cards in hand now. I would expect one of those is removal. Okay, so he's got the Mischief Kieran, which he's going to go ahead and play as a morph, which makes sense. It's worth spending the extra amount of time in order to make sure it gets boosted all the way. Both players having a lot of lands here. The white weenie deck really doesn't want more than 3 or 4 of them, and it's managed. The fact that he's drawn 6 is definitely hurting him in the card advantage race. His opponent is also way ahead as far as card advantage. Looks like by 6 cards, so that's a huge advantage that Joe is up against. So here he went ahead, interesting, and just played the Titan Strength on his Elusive Spellfist. But Joe does have the Celestial Flare to go ahead and get rid of that, preventing his opponent from being able to pump it up, which, again, just very good, deals with it no matter what Afree does, and really putting Joe in the driver's seat here. So he does go ahead and unmorph the Mischief Kieran. Yeah, 3/2 Flying Vigilance, pretty good little beater here, and the Izzet Prowess deck, other than its removal, doesn't really have any good way of dealing with flyers, so... and again, just the fact that it's got Vigilance proved to be really important. So... oh, again, did you see it was there's that bug creeping in. Again, the Celestial Flare artwork was up on the Clutch Occurrence. So he Clutch Occurrence, does go ahead and turn his Skyline Cascade into a land, and Joseph's just going to recast his Kieran as a morph, and swing in with the Arisen Cleric, dropping his opponent down to 14. And Joe's at a very healthy 23 life. Keeps him well out of range of the combo, at least for now, and Afree's already had to burn 2 different Titan strengths, so the odds of him having another one anytime soon are not great, although again, Joe is still definitely under the gun as far as card advantage here. Board situation is fairly similar. Obviously, he's going to go ahead and unmorph his Mischief Kieran, and again, is going to be able, unless Afree's got a way of dealing with it, he's going to be able to consistently get in with that for 3 points of damage every turn. Afree is also only has 1 card in hand. If he can't find another Treasure Cruise, Joe's got enough pressure on the board that he might be able to just keep his opponent off his cards and take this particular match to 3 games. So let's see what Afree, if Afree's able to find a Treasure Cruise here. No, he's got a Whirlwind Adept. A card that's kind of been that there's been some debate on how good it really is. When it had the ability in earlier sets to really take advantage of the hexproof and pump it up using that has proven to be very good. Obviously, Celestial Flare is a great way to try to deal with it. Obviously not as effective here. Joe's going to go ahead and take out the Skyline Cascade with a Fiery Impulse at end of turn. Does leave him with some pretty good blockers for the Whirlwind Adept, although again, the fact that it can get pumped up. Hexproof Prowess is just a really, really powerful combination, simply because there's not much you can do to interact with it, again, other than Celestial Flare. Now, of course, one of the tricks that most people know about now is if you can, even if your opponent is attacking you with multiple creatures, if you can kill off all but one of the creatures by the time you're at the end of combat step, you can then cast the sacrifice spell, and you're able to actually go ahead and get rid of the final creature, although you do still go ahead and take damage from it, the Celestial Flare. So Joe's got a Sandcrafter Mage, would expect him to go ahead and pump the Kieran here. Makes sense, gets it out of easy burn range, out of Twin Bolt range, and is able, basically now he's got a 2-turn clock on his opponent that he can just continue to put that pressure on with the Mischief Kieran, dropping his opponent down to 4, unless his opponent's got some way of dealing with it, which at least this turn he does not. And Joe is still at a pretty healthy 20 life. Obviously, the Whirlwind Adept, you put a Titan Strength on it, pumps it up. You could still potentially be in lethal range if Afree has the right combination of spells. Joe is going to go ahead and block both of the creatures, which I think makes a lot of sense. Doesn't want to give his opponent any chance to assemble the combo and deal with him, because again, it's not out of the question without Whirlwind Adept for him to pump it up to 10 power and be able to kill off his opponent. So he in fact did have the Temur Battle Rage, which is going to allow, which pumps up both of the creatures and will allow him to kill the Sandcaster Mage without taking any damage, or without trading with it rather. So it gets rid of that. The Arisen Cleric survives the battle since the Jeskai Sage is only a 2/2. But again, the fact that he had to use the Temur Battle Rage in a Oh, and he goes ahead and concedes. So I guess he didn't have anything else, any way of dealing with the Mistooth Kieran. And so that is how game 2 ended. All right, and I'm back now. Here we are in game 3 of this finals in the Standard Pauper Double League Phase 2. Both joekewwl and afreeAk have won a game, so this will determine who wins the first match. Again, as a reminder, that joekewwl is the one who was the winner of the winner's bracket, and so he has to lose 2 matches before he is defeated. So if he drops this game, we will go on to a second match. If he wins it here, though, he will go ahead and be the winner of Phase 2 of the Double League. And so we are off to the races here. Let's see what if Joe's able to do as he did last time, keep enough pressure on his opponent, keep his creatures off the board, and be able to eke out a win here with his White Weenie Splash and Red deck. Or if Is It Prowess will simply prove to be too much, too great for Joe to overcome. On his turn, he does have a 2-drop here, very excellent Erishan Cleric, pumping him up to 23 life, and can actually block that Jeskai Sage fairly well on turn 3, simply because it's unlikely that his opponent will be able to pump it up twice. So let's see if he's going to go ahead and cast a spell now. He has a Mage Ring Bully, and I don't think that there are any instant speed 1-mana spells, and he's not even going to bother to attack here. Must not have had a second spell to play, so it makes sense, no reason to kill his Jeskai Sage for no reason. Joe's going to go ahead and burn out the Mage Ring Bully here. It's possible Afree could have to spell in hand. He may be considering whether to play that. He does not. And Joe goes ahead and keeps his Erishan Cleric back. Didn't, again, having a little bit of land trouble, missed his 3rd land drop there, so that is definitely going to be a concern. Granted, he is able to play a lot of his hand with only two lands out, but the fact this deck really wants to be able to add a creature to the board and have a removal spell up. So he does have a Tormenting Voice, though, which is nice. Discarding his Bondkin, just so he can hopefully find a land here. Hopefully he found one. Looks like, he did not find a land, so it leaves him still stuck at 2 lands. Boy, getting stuck at 2 lands and not being able to play anything would definitely be a very sad way for this particular match to end. So hopefully Joe's able to recover from this and still put up a good fight. So Free's going to go ahead and go straight to his attack step, and he's going to go ahead and attack with the Sage. Kind of did the classic double bump there, attack, don't attack, attack. Joe is going to go ahead and block. Oh, interesting, it was just a bluff. So the Jeskai Sage attacks and dies, but of course it does get recycled, so he is able to at least draw a creature off of it. Makes you wonder if Afree's a little land heavy and doesn't really have any good options here. So Joe does now have his 3rd land drop, finds a Token Freeblade, which he's going to go ahead and add to the board. Again, another one of these creatures that has the ability to get pumped up with tokens, and the fact that, again, that it has Vigilance means that it can attack and still stay back to block against Afree's various creatures, which is very good. So let's see if Afree is continuing to not have any really good spells played. I mean, he's got 7 cards in hand, so I can't imagine he doesn't have anything here. Oh, wow. Yeah, he must be really flooded. He's forced to use Titan Strength here to go ahead and he's basically just scrying, using it almost as a cycle to continue to dig to find what he needs. He does like the card that he finds, but again, just forcing him to not use that in a synergistic way, but just use it as a 2-mana scry one is really good for Joe. So both people having some pretty major land issues here as we are in this 3rd game. Free again using something non-synergistically is forced to just bounce the Token Freeblade, trying to just keep Joe from putting too much pressure on him until both are able to kind of overcome the issues they're having. And Free really being trapped on 4 mana isn't, for the Is It Prowess deck isn't a lot of mana either. So I imagine Joe's going to go ahead, just recast the Freeblade and pass the turn back. Joe was commenting that he wished Free would have used the Titan Strength when it's his turn and not his opponent's turn. Obviously, Free would never do that, but it's pretty funny. So let's see what Afree has managed to find here. Is treasure clues? It is a treasure cruise, or treasure clues, maybe that as well. So refilling his hand up to 7, but didn't have a lot of cards in his graveyard, so he's forced to use most of his mana in order to cast it, so isn't able to have another play here. Joe finds one of the Sandstone Bridges, is going to drop it on the Erishan Cleric, and get in here for a pretty significant 4 points of damage. And both have Vigilance, so they're both staying back to block. It's going to put a token on the token Freeblade as well. Joe definitely has a pretty sizable advantage here, despite missing a couple land drops. He is really in good shape here and adds another token Freeblade to the board as well. So definitely putting some very significant pressure on his opponent. Again, just being kind of flooded is not where Afree wants to be at all. And unusual. These Prowess deck doesn't play that many lands. So to see him in a situation where he doesn't really have a lot of spells to play is very unusual. Definitely made the game a little more interesting, though. Although if Afree's not able to do anything here, this game's going to be over really, really quickly. Joe's now got basically a 3-turn clock. Obviously, there'll be some interaction before that, but Afree's definitely going to need something to get back into this. And again, he's got an 8-card advantage here as far as cards that he's drawn. So there's no reason why he can't manage to sneak in another win here if he's got the time to do it. Does find a Jeskai Sage, again, just basically allowing him to chop block here and delay his opponent. And of course, with Prowess, there's always lots of different things you can do. So Joe is fearless. He's just going to go ahead and swing in with everything. My guess would be the Jeskai Sage would block the 2-power token Freeblade. It probably has a trick here as well, just so that he can kill off the weaker Freeblade and allows him to cycle Jeskai Sage. So it basically ends up being a wash for him. Good way to delay his opponent, but still dropping him down to 11. So let's see, he does... he didn't. He just had to chop block. Wow. The Afree is definitely hurting here. He makes me wonder, he's got all those cards in hand, why he's not able to play anything. It'd be interesting to see if they really are all lands, or if it just are tricks that he doesn't know, because he would have played a trick there. So yeah, I don't know what Afree could have in his hand to have so many cards and yet really not be able to do much of anything. Must just be all lands, or just a bunch of creatures that he's not able to trigger Prowess with. So definitely not a good place for him to be. You notice that Joe has pretty much stopped drawing lands. Again, 4 mana is about where you want to be, and as long as he's able to not draw too many more lands, it does help mitigate some of the card advantage that his opponent is able to put on him. He's now got a 9-card advantage, though, between their respective libraries. So just an amazing bit of card advantage to be in the situation that he's in. So Afree does find a Clutch Occurrence, bouncing the Renown token Freeblade, but he's going to be forced to hold that Swiftwater Cliffs back just to be able to block and hope to keep his opponent's creatures at bay. Joe doesn't really have a good way of interacting with the Swiftwater Cliffs, but of course he can always pump up, may have Fiery Impulse as well. He does indeed have the Fiery Impulse to get rid of the Swiftwater Cliffs, and is going to be able to get in here. Now his opponent could, interestingly enough, though it's a creature, if he has a spell here, he can tap it and dispel the Fiery Impulse, but in some ways that's still instead he's got a Titan Strength, pumping it up to a 6/4, but he's forced to tap it in order to do that, so it saves it, but it does still get it out of the way, so Joe is going to be able to drop his opponent down to 8, and as well as put Renown on the secondary Freeblade. So again, Joe doesn't need too many more of those. Basically got his opponent on a 2-turn clock. For whatever it's worth, Afree is also down to less than 5 minutes on his clock. And Joe's got a pretty commanding board advantage here. Given the amount of time left in the match and the state of the board, this game is definitely pushing in Joe's favor. Again, if Afree's got enough cards he can draw, he's certainly not out of it. If he can find a way to continue to bounce his opponent's creatures, to delay him, to put up those Swiftwater Cliffs as blockers, he might be able to survive long enough to pull something off, but he's going to have to be pretty quick about it with only 5 minutes left on his clock. So it does bounce one of Joe's creatures, get another Swiftwater Cliffs into play. Let's see what Joe's able to do here. If he's got to hold back, nope, he's just going to continue to put as much pressure on his opponent as he can. Obviously, with 7 cards in hand, I expect he's got some kind of trick here. Either Celestial Flare or Gideon's Rebuke. Both of those would allow him to get rid of those creatures. Joe does indeed have a trick here. Let's see which one he's got. So he does have Celestial Flare to go ahead and get rid of one of the Swiftwater Cliffs. Obviously, and he's going to tap it to use a Dispel. Nice little, again, one of those tricks you don't want to forget is that even though these are creatures, they are also lands that can be tapped. And obviously, as blockers, the ability to use them as lands is really good. So Joe does have the Enshrouding Mist on the token Free Blade, which will allow him to kill off one of the cliffs. Does lose one of his Arishan Clerics in the process, but did force his opponent to play a card. So let's see if Free's got anything here that he's going to be able to do. Does have an Elusive Spell Fist, which again is what he needs. But he's already had to cast 2 of the Titan Strengths. Haven't seen a Temur Battle Rage yet, so potentially could have one of those in hand. Got a Tormenting Voice that discarding one of his adepts, the Whirlwind Adept. Again, just trying to find removal, trying to find ways of slowing Joe down long enough to stay alive and not get run over by all the pressure that Joe has managed to put on him. So Joe continues to have 5 cards in hand, finally plays a 5th land. Again, he's just, because of what he's got in hand, is able to just swing in freely and continue to put lots of pressure on his opponent. So let's see, he's going to go ahead and double block. No, he's going to put that makes a lot more sense. So Free's going to go ahead and block both creatures. I expect Joe's, again, can't imagine he would make that attack without having a trick in hand, potentially 2. Again, with 5 cards in hand, you would expect to see a Celestial Flare, a Gideon's Rebuke, maybe even another Enshrouding Mist here. And the fact that Joe's even thinking about it makes me wonder if he's got multiple tricks here. So it does have a Celestial Flare here. I would expect that the Elusive Spell Fist will be down, although that is a pretty important win condition for Free if he's ever going to be able to get in. So it looks like he does have... Oh, he's got an Anticipate here. I thought maybe he had another Dispel, but it's Anticipate. But he does have to tap out in order to cast it. Does pump up the Elusive Spell Fist. But I would imagine that's still probably what he's going to sacrifice. Maybe not. That is what he goes ahead and sacrifices. Okay, so Spell Fist is down. Token Free Blade would be down, except that Joe has a Gideon's Reproach here to get rid of the land, and now he is firmly in command here. Doesn't actually end up being able to deal any damage, but his opponent's down to 3 minutes, and although he's got 5 cards in hand, Joe's definitely got firm control of this game at this point. So Free does go ahead and get rid of the token Free Blade. Keeping himself alive as long as possible here. I do wonder if we're at the point where this game could go to time. See if Joe's got another play here. I mean, he's still got several creatures in hand. Obviously, he had the token Free Blade since it had been bounced. And looks like he's going to add... Okay, so he's got a Sand Step Outcast as well. Assume he'll just leave that as a 3-2, which he does. And now he actually has lethal on the board. Obviously, I would expect with a Free having 4 cards in hand that he's got a way of dealing with at least one of those creatures to stay alive one more turn. Has a Fiery Impulse to get rid of the Sand Step Outcast. So buying himself another turn. Let's see what else he's got here. And has a Whirlwind Adept as well. But again, I would expect Joe to continue to swing in. He knows that the Whirlwind Adept can't be pumped up. Oh, and with the Sandstep Mage, or Sandcrafter Mage rather, he's going to be able to pump up the Arishan Cleric as well, so that both creatures will trade with the Whirlwind Adept, definitely allowing him to swing in pretty freely here. Oh no, interesting, he instead puts it on the token Free Blade, which I would not have expected. Oh, okay, so he's got a Bondkin as well, which gives the token Free Blade first strike. That makes a lot more sense. So here, I would expect that he'll go ahead and use the Whirlwind Adept to block the Arishan Cleric and just get it off the board. Basically a free block, but does drop him down to 3. And with 3 creatures in play, even though a Free's going to have multiple spells here, I have a hard time imagining that he's going to be able to deal with 2 of those creatures long enough to be able to stay alive. let's see what he's got here. He does have a majoring bully, but that doesn't really change a whole lot. Does let him block one more. Obviously, can't imagine that he would attack here. So all Joe has to do is swing him with one of his creatures now. And does still have a card in hand. See if he swings in with everything. He does, so it's guaranteed to get at least 2 damage through. So Free's forced to block the token Free Blade in order to stay alive. Excuse me. Alright, so basically he's forced just to chump there. He does have a treasure cruise to, again, just look for some kind of answer here, but down to 1 life. He is able, with the Skyline Cascade, to hold back one of the creatures, but he's got to be able to deal with 2 more of them, which I can't imagine that he's going to be able to do here. Does have a Tormenting Voice, drawing him 2 more cards, discarding a land. And that is going to be how this ends. So joekewwl has received good games, and that is the end of the second phase of the Standard Pauper Double League, with joekewwl taking the championship with his white weenie splashing red deck. So hope you've enjoyed watching this. Thanks so much.
In closing, let me remind you, you can keep up with all my writings and articles by following me on Twitter at the username gwyned42. That's GWYNED and the number 42. I also regularly publish articles over at puremtgo.com. Search for me by the username gwyned on that site, or find the link in the description of this video. I also maintain a blog now at writeradept.blogspot.com, and you can also find that in the description. Finally, if you enjoyed these videos, please remember to subscribe to my channel and post any feedback or comments. Thanks for watching.